Welcome to The Hats. The Hats is a weekly podcast hosted by licensed marriage and family therapist and author Melissa Dumas and attorney and business owner Kerri Harper-Howie. Listen in for practical tips on how to keep your hats upright, how to handle life when one of your hats gets lopsided, and plenty of real-life solutions to help you balance the many hats you wear daily.
Hello, Hatters, and welcome back to the Hats Podcast. I am your co-host, Melissa Dumas, and I am here today with my co-host.
Hi, Hatters. This is Kerri Harper-Howie. I'm glad to be back with you again.
Hatters, as you can see, today we are talking about the Boss Moves hat, which how could we be in the boss babe, boss bitch season and not talk about the moves that a boss would make? And so, Kerri, I know that this was one of your episodes that you said, we got to talk about the boss moves. And I said, yes, that sounds good. But what was your reason for saying or for initiating this episode? And I clearly agreed with it and I was on board. But what was your reason that this was important for this season?
So, you know how you hear like a director or a producer of a movie will say, you know, I had this idea for a script and I wrote it out. And as I was writing it, I had an actress in mind.
Yes.
That is my current situation. I don't remember exactly what happened, but I had some interaction with this beauty right here. And I thought, Monique is Boss Moves. Like she embodies, she lives it, she breathes it. And as we were coming into the Boss Move season, I was like, I'm sorry, the Boss Bitch season, I was like, we've got to talk to somebody who can school us on what it means to make boss moves. And I think it's particularly true, Mel, because you and I have been in corporate America, but I was in the legal department. You've never really been in corporate America. Neither of us has really worked in government. These are the spaces where you've got to be able to make some moves. You've got to be bold. You've got to be courageous. You've got to be educated. You've got to be savvy. There are so many things that I think go into being a boss mover. And so I said, we need to do this during this season. And I begged. I didn't have to beg a lot, but I went and I was like, Monique, do you think? And she was like, of course, because that's what a boss does.
Yes.
That was the bag.
Yeah.
Monique, do you think? Sure.
Yes.
Yes. And when she said Monique, I was like, oh, yes, that's a good one. That's a good one.
So I had a person in mind. And when I think of Monique, I just think of somebody who is such a boss. And I don't say that word lightly. Like I'm not somebody who's like, oh, they're an icon or they're epic. Monique, you will see, you already see, like, you can already see she came in and sat down. She's already been, letting us know what's up. So let me start by saying first, welcome to the show, Monique.
Thank you, Kerri.
Thank you for saying yes.
Absolutely.
So what we will do is I am going to tell you, Hatters, a little bit more about Monique by reading her bio, and then we're going to dive right in. So Monique Earl is a dynamic leader with over 20 years of experience in both the public and private sectors, specializing in financial management, policy development, and infrastructure innovation. She currently serves as a senior manager at Accenture LLP, where she leads transportation and infrastructure initiatives across Southern California, helping public sector clients drive modernization, efficiency, and equity in mobility solutions. Previously, Monique held key leadership roles in the city of Los Angeles, including Deputy Mayor of Budget and Financial Policy, she managing the money, Chief Deputy Controller, managing the money, and Executive Officer at the Los Angeles Department of Transportation. In these roles, she shaped financial strategy, improved transparency, and advanced transportation planning to better serve Angelenos. At the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, she led human resources and spearheaded diversity initiatives in hiring, contracting, and community engagement. Born in Los Angeles, Monique is a proud resident of Leimert Park and remains deeply committed to community engagement. She holds a master's degree of public administration from American University and a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science from California State University, Northridge. Those are some boss credentials.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
Kerri can read. I love that. I love that for you.
It's one of my skills. Okay, so Mel and I have shared a little bit about this episode, what it means to make boss moves. And I would like to know to you, Monique, what does it mean to you? What does it mean to kind of make boss moves in your career, in your life, you know, affecting the people around you and yourself at the same time?
Thank you so much for that question. And as a boss, I got to first stop and pause and thank both of you for inviting me here today and to recognize how incredibly dope it is that you all have sustained this podcast.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
easy to start a podcast, but to go into other seasons is a huge, huge milestone. So I'm proud of you all. And thank you for being bosses.
Yeah, thank you.
I received that.
Yes. So what I will say, for me, making boss moves is being unafraid to take risks. And it's not the type of situation where you're not scared. We're always scared. You can do hard shit scared. And I'm going to use a few expletives.
You're
here
allowed
because
to.
That's what I do.
You're allowed to.
Yes.
But it's recognizing that I'm going to take this risk and I'm going to use all of my experiences, my faith, the advice of great people around me to go and move forward and bet on myself. And so that's always been sort of what I've led with as it relates to being a boss. Beyonce has that song, I Got This Shit from Tina. I got this from my mama. I saw my mother navigate spaces where she may have not had the educational degrees that go along with people in these roles. She ran businesses. She worked in banking, but she really stepped out there. She and my father stepped out on faith and bet on themselves, and they really invested in the community. That's what I saw from a very, very early age. And that's what was important to me. It's how can we make sure that this community is better because we are here? How can we hire people around us? They were from Natchez, Mississippi. They came probably like a lot. Your parents came as part of the Great Migration. And so when, cousin Bernard came to our house, or cousin Cassandra, or whoever needed a job had a job. Whoever needed somewhere to stay had somewhere to stay. And those were really the things that resonated with me. I was proud to be the daughter of Henry and Alexine. And it was because
Alexine.
That's a boss name.
Right.
That's a boss name.
And, people would call her Alex, but she went by Alexine. You're going to get the whole name.
Yes.
And so I was proud to be their daughter just because I saw how they were helping people and how people responded like, oh, you're their daughter. Like, that's a big deal. And I wanted to embody that in wherever I went. And how can I help somebody with whatever perch I have, whatever currency I have, and currency is not always money.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
It's how can I use my sphere of influence to help somebody else?
I love that. So much there to unpack. But the thing that screams to me the loudest is that I think sometimes there's this misconception that a boss is someone who shows up, points, tells people what to do. They sit on their throne and look low. And what I'm hearing is that you and your parents were like, no, we roll our sleeves up. We're right there with you. We're giving back to the community. We're not here just to take from the community. And that's such like a big, important piece in leadership.
100%.
And the difference between being a bossy person versus like being a leader. And so that give back is so important. And then also that, sometimes there's this misconception like we're taking currency, we're taking resources, but we're not sharing those resources, or we're not helping to uplift other people with those resources. And those boss moves that you're making and that your family has made did in doing just that.
100%. One place where you don't want to go and start telling people what to do and think that they'll follow you is government.
Yeah. I believe it. Yes.
Bureaucrats are real.
Yes. So
they
real.
know the system.
Yes.
They will use that system
until it's time for them to retire. They not moving off that throne.
They will not move for you
not
unless they are inspired to.
Yes.
And don't get me wrong. You public servants, bureaucrats, they do hard work.
Yes.
They do the work. Sometimes even when they don't like the leader, but go in there and treat them bad and see what happens. The things that you really want done get slowed down to a painful grind.
Yeah.
Because they're not being treated with the respect that they deserve. And so oftentimes there's a real balance with that. It's important to go in, help people to see the larger vision of something and why it's important. And then that leadership together will drive the results of programs. And so I find that.
So thank you for starting with fear
Mm.
and for acknowledging that it's not about not having fear, but it's about managing and moving in spite of it.
That's right.
I am a very and this is so true. I called Monique one day. I don't even think it was about a parenting question, but somehow because we're parents, we started talking about it, and she specifically said to me in that moment, "Do not parent from fear." I don't know if you remember
Yeah,
that.
I do.
Remember it vividly. But I love that you said it's not that it's not there. So
Right.
it's not that you're not going to have fear in your career, in your house, in your community, in the things you want to do. It's that you move in spite of the fear.
That's
And
right.
I love that if I feel like you said you were empowered to do it because you weren't doing it alone.
That's right.
You do it in the shadow of your parents. You do it with the people in your community. You do it with the people that you're leading. That is kind of the embodiment of leadership, of bringing people together, of empowering yourself to do that next thing because you're not doing it alone. It's it gives you the foundation to move, to make those boss moves. So that I think is what stood out to me the most, is that it's not just this thing sitting out there and you're like Mel said, you're walking into a room and commanding things. You are giving yourself the talk before you walk in that room, but you're opening the door and you're barging in there. You're like, "Hey, I'm here. What we about to do?
Right.
What are we about to do?"
Yeah, it's a little fake it till you make it.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
You got to have that. Nothing is scarier than the thoughts we have in our head
Yes.
about
True.
something that doesn't even exist.
Doesn't even exist.
We have made up all of these stories in our head, and those stories become the boogeyman.
Right.
And so this generation is so interesting to all of us, right? So interesting because the main word that we hear throughout everything is anxiety. I have anxiety, I have anxiety, I have anxiety.
Anxiety.
Take it over me. And I think we have always had anxiety. Well, I just didn't know what to call it.
Right.
How about that?
True.
I didn't know what to call it that. And I couldn't let that stop me, right? Who had anxiety? Harriet Tubman had anxiety.
Right.
But you know what I'm thinking?
That legit anxiety.
Right. Rosa Parks had anxiety when she didn't move.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
You think about that was the fear factor. But you also think about how many people have done harder things.
Yes.
How many people have done things that are much bigger than what we're talking about. And I cannot let that fear stop me because now I've raised my hand and said I can do this job, or I've raised my hand and said I can volunteer for this position. I got people counting on me.
Yeah.
You know?
So that leads me kind of to my next point. So I think we all agree that making boss moves requires a level of confidence and courage. And I like to say mixed with a little bit of moxie, right? Now, you are a Black woman walking into a room, even in Southern California, where we have a lot of diversity and a lot of cultural representation. You are, I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, walking into some rooms and some spaces where you're not necessarily, your moxie and your confidence and your courage are not welcome, and they're not even expected. And so how do you navigate those spaces and still maintain your ability to make boss moves in those spaces?
That's a great question. As much diversity as we have in Los Angeles, the rooms that I walk in, oftentimes I'm the only, right? And we know that to be true. I send my daughter to a school where oftentimes she's the only. So there are spaces in Los Angeles, and it's, the higher up you get in what they call tall cotton. When you're in tall cotton.
Yes.
Wow.
I think my mom called it high cotton.
High
but
cotton.
yes,
Yes,
I know where you're
Wow.
going with it. Yep.
Exactly. We're the only. And I think what has sustained me, one is knowing who I am. My husband talks about this story all the time. My mother would wake me up and she would say, "Good morning, Miss America." And I mean, honest to God, I believed it and I still do. I still do. It was so of course I miss what? So
I get it now. It all makes sense.
I love
It
it. I
makes
love
sense.
Alex C.
Alex Z.
I love it.
We gotta have her on the podcast.
Yes.
Alex Z. But it really started from there. I have to say I had a foundation of, being confident in who I am. Like Kerri likes to read. I used to raise my hand when it was time to read out loud. Oh, you would not outread Monique. Absolutely not. So my voice became something that I knew was powerful. So it's important to own your superpower when you're in a room. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not a little bit intimidated.
Okay.
When I'm in a room and it's all these white men or it's all these sometimes sisters, because the older generation of sisters, they gangster. They lead like white men. And so you gotta be like, okay, let me get my footing and know that I have something to say.
Yes.
And I think what I learned the older that I got, that sometimes you don't have to say anything.
Yes.
I was a
Oftentimes,
big
yes.
lesson.
Oftentimes you should stay quiet
Mm-hmm.
and just listen for a period of time, because you don't have to, I kind of am very similar to you, Monique, in believing that in any space, in some way, I am able to add value.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
I don't know, but I don't always know what that value is for that particular room.
Yeah.
So I absolutely agree with you. There are those moments where I'm just observing, I am listening, I'm, detecting,
Yes.
figuring out who is doing what matters here, etc. And then I decide, okay, this is the way that I want to add in this particular space.
Yep.
Right.
You have to be very intentional about that. Another thing I think is a superpower of mine is that I love people and I love relationship building. And that's just something about me. Relationship building is fun to me. It's good to have good friends, that call me in and they want to hang out with me. So I'm like, yeah, let's hang out. Let's have coffee. And so that crosses demographics for me. And what I've learned is to build relationships with people that are outside of my comfort zone. And so, no matter what the race, the age, the gender, I'm going to meet that person for coffee. And no matter what their status is, will you have coffee with me? They say yes, oftentimes. and that happens. And so you have to really, I think, put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, some of my, I won't say some, most of my best mentors when I was at the law firm were white men. They were patient with me. They taught me. They wanted me to succeed.
Yeah.
And that's not always the most popular statement. Like, I learned a lot from those white men, but and it's not, maybe not even a common story, but I think my willingness to be open and to recognize the value that they could add to my life, I trusted them, and I really gained so much from them personally and professionally. So I think that openness is key. That openness to different types of relationships is key.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One of my favorite mentors, one of my best mentors, if I will, was a white man. And we did have that professional but personal relationship.
Yeah.
At some point, it got very personal. And he said, I don't have, he didn't have children. He said, if I ever had a daughter, I will want her to be like you. And that meant so much to me, to be seen in that way. And I learned so much from him, things that I still use today in business and my practice. So being open is definitely a boss move and very important.
Yeah.
And I love that you know what your strengths are. As you call them, your superpowers.
Yeah.
And that tells me like, oh, if you're making boss moves, you know your superpowers, you know your strengths, you know where to leverage those parts of you, whether it's your voice, whether it's your relationship building, whether it's knowing how to ask that question. Because some people can ask, will you meet me for coffee? And they be like, nah.
Right.
But if Monique asks, it sounds like it's going to be a yes,
And I have to say, sometimes you may get a cold shoulder here and there, but you move on.
Right.
Or it just means not right now, because you never know what's happening in somebody's life. Everybody's super busy, and people will hit me up on LinkedIn, and I try to take every meeting, but there's some times where I just don't have the capacity.
Right.
And I'm learning that too.
Yes.
To say I can't, especially post-COVID. The capacity issue is real because you just don't have the bandwidth,
Yes,
the mental
absolutely. Yeah.
and physical bandwidth to meet with everyone and pour into everyone.
Absolutely. And it is a pour,
Yeah.
we're as a boss, we're not just showing up and taking. We're not just showing up and saying, well, what can this person do for me? But we're hoping there's some level of reciprocity there, but we know that we're going to show up and we're going to pour. And I think it's also a boss move to know what your capacity is, because a lot of times people, and I think I've said this in a previous episode, we will mistake our availability for our capacity. And so we'll look at our calendar and be like, yeah, I'm available on Tuesday for coffee, but not realizing that Monday we're peopling all day long. Wednesday we're peopling all day long. So even though Tuesday has a slot, you may not have the capacity because you've poured in so many other ways. So knowing your capacity is a boss move.
Ooh, that's a book. That is a whole book. Now, seriously, you see that free real estate on your
Yes.
Oh,
for you.
man.
You're like, the things I could do in 2 hours. Instead of, sitting back and just say, I'm not going to do that.
Right after, don't plan a thing. Because something's going to try to find you, right? And so we need to all probably do a better job of guarding those moments of freedom instead of like, oh, yeah, I got an hour.
Not allowing ambition to take control of our calendar.
Yes, man. Okay, Monique. So you have navigated the public sector, the private sector. What is a boss move in your career that you've made that you feel like truly changed the trajectory of your life or business? And what did you learn from that?
Oh, wow.
I'm saying, like I didn't know the question. Like, ooh, that's good.
Right, because it is such a deep question. Because there have been several, right?
Okay.
And what really stands out to me as pivotal was when I took the role at the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power.
Okay.
LADWP.
I remember talking to you about that. But
yes, as everybody knows, it has a reputation for being a really tough place to navigate. And the issue that I took on, it was post George Floyd. It was when the DE&I professional movement was there. It was a C-suite position. They were giving Black women in particular, note that, the authority to make a difference in something that I am truly passionate about. I have built my career on looking out for us.
Yes.
And I take that to heart. At the time when the recruiter reached out to me, I was in a position and in a new assignment at the executive level that I loved. When I tell you love,
That's awesome.
it was an unhealthy kind of love. that dumb and stupid kind of love. Like, I was telling people, you would have to pry this job out of my cold dead end. And I loved the team that I worked. I built the team. I loved the job. It was great. I was also overseeing field operations at the Department of Transportation. So along with the administrative part, I also had the crews. I have the crews that stripe streets, paint curbs, build and repair licenses. It's nothing like hanging out at a yard. You got your hard hat and your boots and you get in the trucks. And most importantly for me, you're helping to transform lives because those are the folks that are often neglected in agencies like that. People don't go into the yard and say, how can I make this yard better? And using Kerri's time, how can I class up the joint down at the yard, but in a way that resonates for the men that work there, men who were often overlooked. I would do things that were called open houses where I go once a month and I just hang out at the yard. And I tell people you can come and talk to me. I am here. Now, their supervisors didn't love that because it was like, they're supposed to come to me with issues. I'm here. Talk to me. So I loved so much about that job, but I saw this opportunity at Water and Power to make a difference. Yeah. And then I got there. It was the challenge that I thought it was going to be, one. And then my health took a turn. And as you know, I had a cancer battle. And it was really, really a pivotal moment in my life. Because when I was diagnosed with cancer, I was like, okay, bet. It was it wasn't like immediate tears, woe is me, those kind of things. I was like, okay, I have to take care of my health. And I am stressed to the max, and I'm not going to be able to do both. And so I had to make a decision. One, I had to go and take care of my health, but I had to analyze and say, is this the right moment for me to be in this place? And can I make a real difference here? And so that's when I decided to go into consulting. I started looking for those opportunities, and I moved out of that position within 1 year. And people thought I was crazy. They were like, you have lost your mind. You've been with the city for 20 years. This is your career. What are you doing? And I'm betting on Monique. God said,
Yeah.
it's time for you to go. Because that's what those conversations where you're questioning things and you feel it in your spirit, it's God moving you in a different direction. It was time to go. And so that, what to me was probably the most pivotal boss move.
I love it. I love that the boss move was walking away from something.
Yeah.
I think we assume that the boss move is always an upward, like a vertical progression, as opposed to, and actually, let me actually step back, because it can be vertical, but not in the traditional way we think of.
right.
That's right.
Because the choosing of yourself is a vertical. It's just not necessarily from director to senior director.
Yeah,
Right. The thing that we think of, it's not leaving one company to go to another company. This was you making a boss move that nobody else could see.
Yeah.
But that you had the confidence to bet on yourself, to live and sit and stew in your faith, even when it was probably scary to do so. So you're already dealing with the scare of a health challenge, but the scare of this move that everyone around you is telling you you're crazy.
Yeah.
That is the definition of a boss move to me.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. To do it in full faith and with fear and all.
Yeah.
And then also to be okay with a change of mind or change of trajectory. You said originally you started with like, they were going to have to pry this job out of my cold dead hands. And then your doctor said, and which one is it going to be? You know? And then I think also it's really important, as Kerri was saying, that you were prioritizing and choosing yourself. That speaks volumes as well, because sometimes as a boss, we are prioritizing the job. We are prioritizing the team. We are prioritizing the project. And we do have to step back and say, wait a minute, how am I being impacted here? I'm stressed. My health is of a concern. This is a time where I need to prioritize myself.
And to recognize that you literally cannot be a boss without these basic things.
Right.
But we forget. And we think, I got all these superpowers.
Right.
So I don't have to even think about all this other stuff. I can just go and go and go. But at some point, God says, this is where you're going.
Right.
This is where
It's not where you thought it was, but this is where I'm sending you.
Right.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to recognize that your job is just one thing amongst the many other things that we have going on. And my career as a public servant had started to become my identity. And that concerned me. The job is to buy nice stuff. You can do stuff while you're there and make an impact and all of that. But you could also do that as a volunteer. Don't feel like this is just the end all to be all. I got to be a mother. I need to be a wife. I need to do all the. I am a lovey. I have a grandson. Woo, you can tell. I'm a grandmother and I am proud to say it. And so all of these things I start to recognize are really important.
You know, everyone doesn't get the benefit. I mean, praise God, you came through that health challenge like a champ and are on the other side of it. You know, everyone doesn't get that opportunity to either come through it or even to learn the lessons. You know, what a shame to not learn. I was actually at an event yesterday that I was emceeing, and one of the keynote speakers reminded me of the very common quote, don't let a good tragedy go, go on. What is the phrase? Don't ever let a good tragedy get by or something. In other words, go to waste. Don't let a good tragedy go to waste. There is something that you should pull out of it and then take with you as you go. You know, so
Yeah, I love
kudos
that.
to
I
you
heard
for doing that.
Thank you. Thank you. I have a similar quote that I heard from a dear friend who also had a cancer battle. And as you know, if you're going through chemo, you're doing a lot of waiting.
Yeah.
It's just, you're just sitting there. You're sitting there. And I have to say, during my chemo experience, being at the infusion center was a peaceful time. It really was a peaceful time. It's not painful at that time. It's just you're going through this process and you're there maybe 3 or 4 hours. And a good friend of mine told me, don't waste the wait. And I was like, wow, that's big.
Yeah, that is
That's
big.
big.
That is big. Yeah.
I love
And
that.
it reminds me of, something that our pastor says about when we're in the valley. He was like, the valley has purpose also. And sometimes we think like, oh, we're in the valley, like, God, what are you doing? Like, why am I here? But the valley has purpose also. And sometimes we don't see it in the moment, but don't waste
It's
the
the
wait.
old school. Go somewhere and sit down. When your parents said that, they're telling you, go sit down and think about what you're doing. Right.
I mean, it's like your capacity in those moments to go sit down.
Yeah.
And to be still, to learn, and it's so funny because as soon as you were like, don't waste the wait, I'm like, well, are you reading books? Are you maybe you're just being still.
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
So I love that. It's
Yeah.
So someone listening to this episode or watching this episode is on the verge of making their first boss move. Right? It might be in their career, it might be in their, their personal life, it might be in the PTA, right? I'm about to run for PTA president. Right. I'm ready to get out there and do some stuff. There are so many spheres, right, in which we are trying to make boss moves. What is your advice for that person, particularly those who might struggle with fear, perfectionism, imposter syndrome, which I think hits a lot of us? So what are your advice and your tips for that person that's on the verge?
That phrase, imposter syndrome, drives me nuts.
Oh, okay.
And because to me, it's part of the whole sort of anxiety thing, or it's not understanding that wherever you go, wherever, you're not going to have 100% of all the tools there are to have in order to do that role, right? But you raised your hand or you were identified for a reason. And to me, that reason is oftentimes you have the core of what is needed to do what you have to do to be successful.
Yeah.
And so whatever else you need to do to level up, do it. Like, figure it out. Figure out whether or not you need to go and get some degrees or education or read some books or talk to some people and have a plan to level up into that role. But you're going to have to learn no matter what you do and where you go. They're going to have to train you.
Right.
So it's a matter of just trusting yourself and understanding you're going to make mistakes.
Yes.
That's one of my favorite questions in a job interview. Tell me about a mistake that you made and how you resolved that. People can't answer that question. Oftentimes, it's very difficult for people to answer that question because they're afraid to be vulnerable.
Right.
They want to go through the sort of classic interview answer response.
Yes.
Yeah, that really turns out to be a strength. It's not necessarily.
Very true.
I take on way too much. I know.
Fool, I love people too much.
Yes.
Exactly. No.
I'm just too dedicated to the work.
No, I messed up some numbers in a multi-billion-dollar budget. How about that? It gave my boss advice that wasn't correct or whatever. And how did you overcome that? So really understanding that the imposter syndrome or whatever they call it is just not being at the level where you need to be at that time. It's you can get there or you're going to learn from that. So I think giving people advice is trust your gut, because if you have gone out for this interview, you've actually applied for this opportunity or you've raised your hand, something is telling you can do this. So trust your gut and make sure what you're hearing back is not the noise from the outside. I've also learned to keep my circle small in terms of the number of advisors. Stop fishing for advisors. Like, you fish for the advice that you want to hear. You calling people you ain't talked to. I should do such and such. Like, girl, come on.
Right. The echo chamber.
Exactly. So you have to be very clear about those voices. And you can't hear God's voice if you got all these multiple voices that are going on. And it's, to me, relying on your faith.
Yeah.
The faith will sustain.
Yeah, very true. To your point about rising to the occasion when you've volunteered or you've been voluntold that
right.
you have to do it. Back to earlier when we were talking about mentors, the mentor that I mentioned, one thing he said, he was like, if someone offers you an opportunity and you want to do it and you don't know how, you say yes and you figure it out later.
Yeah.
And so, that really resonates with me when you say, like, you said yes, you've been voluntold, there's something in you, they asked you for a reason. So there are some things that you are going to have to learn on the job or learn as you go along or go home and study and be
Yes.
prepared for that opportunity. So thank you for that reminder. I really also loved your question about, like, tell me about your mistakes.
Yeah.
Because that also says that as a boss, it's okay to make mistakes and that you're going to make mistakes. We make mistakes.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing is about learning from those mistakes.
Yeah.
And if we're not learning, then are we really making boss moves? Because when we think about learning, we think the conference, the book, the podcast, the mentor, but learning is also in the doing and in the mistakes as well.
Yes, absolutely. That has been, one of my biggest lessons is just understanding that, yes, I may go up here and I may do something that is not aligned with, the being on the government side with what the council member is thinking or what the mayor is thinking. And how do you make sure that your voice is still heard outside of that noise? And so it's a real balance as it relates to the mistakes that you might make in that moment and being able to see what is a mistake and then how is it also a lesson.
Right.
I think for me, the answer, it's yes and.
Yeah.
Yes, and I need this help. Yes, and I need this training. Yes, and it'll take me a little bit of time. And some advice that I actually just got yesterday from a good friend of mine as I am entering the application season for my soon-to-be high schooler. And my friend's advice to me was, trust the process.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
She said, trust your instincts as to what you think is good for your son.
Yes.
But also trust the school that has spent more time with him than you.
Oh.
And so their advice is going to be very sound. And also trust the places you're applying to.
Yeah.
Because they also are good at their jobs. And they are, in the same way that you walk onto a campus and you're like, this is the one. They're going to see you and they're going to say, that's the one. Or they're going to say, that's not the one. And that means that that opportunity wasn't for you. It's not necessarily a rejection of you as a person, as a student, as a professional, as a mom, as a wife. It just meant that in that moment, the opportunity wasn't for you. So trust them, go with your gut, but also recognize that the process is there for a reason. Right. So, a lot of times when you're applying for your job, you're like, it's taking too long. I don't know what's going on. There's a reason why it's taking that long. Because they're figuring out on their end. And in the meantime, maybe you should be looking at something else.
That's what I'm saying.
So trust the process also, because the boss move doesn't necessarily mean a fast move.
Right.
It just means that it's the move.
Yeah.
Make sure you're moving.
Yes.
No, you bring up a really, really great point because oftentimes we're so busy trying to get the job instead of looking at, is this the right job for me? Is this the right environment for me?
Yeah.
And so even with this sort of going through the process with schools, and I do tours for my daughter's school, right? And I will tell people all of these schools are good. You see how much they cost? They're all really, really good.
They better be.
They know how to educate
Yeah.
your child. Does your child feel seen, heard, and valued? And now I have to put that on me. If I am I in an environment where I feel seen, heard, and valued. And that is so critical for anybody looking for opportunities, who's thinking about making a transition. That's with anything, your marriage, your friendships, your all the things.
Right.
Where can I be my authentic self?
Yes.
Where can I throw up my West Side? I feel like I can do that at a center. I can throw my dubs and it's going to resonate with somebody.
They're going to throw it up back at you.
I love it. I love it.
But I'm just saying, I just want to be Monique.
Yes.
And that's important at this stage in my life. And when you look at the dollars and cents, we all know all money ain't good money.
Right.
So be very clear on what you can be in your role without that.
Such a great point that I want to touch on before we close. All money is not good money. All jobs are not the right jobs. All positions are not the right position. All promotions are not the right promotions. All places are not the right places.
All circles.
All circles. All moves, all boss moves are not the right boss moves. It's so important. And Monique, I think it's easy for you to say you want to show up as your authentic self. I want to remind our audience to know who your authentic self is. Invest in the time to really know what that is, because everybody's not totally clear on who they are. And any of your moves that are made before you really know who you are not going to be the right moves.
And you know, it's so interesting. I learned that lesson from a woman that was my favorite boss. She was the best boss that I had, and she was a young white woman from Mississippi.
Okay.
And at Transportation, Salita Reynolds, you know I'm shouting you out. And when I met Salita, she would say, and she'd say this publicly, she said, and privately, say it privately, but she would say that the transportation system is rooted in white supremacy. And she said it so loud, and I was just like, don't that out loud. Like, no, we got to fake the fog. We got to, because I'm so used to code switching.
Yes.
At that time, I reckon I don't have to code switch. I can speak my truth. I can say this. And, luckily I had that in me.
Yeah.
But I had never been able to do it so boldly. Yeah. And with someone who was the head of the organization saying that affirmatively and then putting the dollars and cents and giving me the permission to put the dollars and cents where that would make a difference, where we could transform our organization from that standpoint, I was just like, oh, I can say and do anything I want. And so it really felt good.
Yeah, very empowering.
Yes.
Yeah. A couple things that resonate with me from the tips that have been provided and just the overall episode is that being our true authentic self is the boss move, not a boss move, but the boss move. And then the other thing too, Kerri, as you were talking about trusting the process, what came up for me is realizing and remembering that a boss move is chess. Is not checkers, and being okay with the wait and making a move or not making a move and sitting back and saying, okay, let me wait before I rush to boom, 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 because this is chess, not checkers. So that came up for me. In regards to any tips that I would like to share with our listeners, is remembering to check in with yourself. A boss pours a lot, or a boss pours and gives, but then also remembering to check in with yourself so that you can get that checks and balances, because the quality of your pour is a boss move as well. If you're a boss, we don't want like your muddy pour. We don't want that. We want the quality, the clarity of your pour, and being able to show up knowing that you have quietly, privately, behind doors, publicly taking care of yourself is so important, and one of the best boss moves that you could make.
I thought you were going with, I want that top shelf pour.
Yes.
I
was thinking it, but the words weren't coming to me. I was thinking I was like, is there a brand? What brand is it?
I want that VOO.
Yes,
I want that VOO, right?
Yes. Like that's exactly.
And if they want to sponsor the episode to tag it out, we'll take it. We'll take that boss move.
Sponsored by.
Yeah, sponsored by.
Yes.
Well, Hatters, I have had fun. I don't know about you, but I always have the best time with this boss right here, Monique Earl.
Thank
you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. This was great.
So good.
Yes. Wine next time.
Yes. Okay.
A VOO. Whatever it is.
Right. Top shelf, whatever it is.
Whatever it is.
Hatters, we hope that you've learned something today that will help you as you continue to make more boss moves in your life. We thank you so much for listening, and we tip our hats to you. The information in this podcast is provided for general informational purposes only and should not be construed as legal, medical, or therapeutic advice. Listening to this podcast does not take the place of developing an individual relationship with a therapist or attorney. If you need help for mental health or legal issues, we strongly encourage you to find a professional in your area who can help meet your individual needs.